This boy always suspects Santa Claus and starts investigating the truth. Luckily, on Christmas Eve, a magic train helps him travel to the North Pole and meet the real Santa Claus. It's Christmas Eve and little Chris is tucked in bed, but he can't fall asleep. He is trying to be as quiet as possible to hear the sound he is anxiously waiting for, the sound of ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. After hours of patience, Chris finally hears the bells and excitedly gets out of the bed. He peeks through the window but doesn't see anything. The bells are still audible, so Chris decides to check by himself. He gradually walks downstairs and sees a familiar shadow. Chris assumes that it's Santa Claus and gets really excited. However, it turns out to be his dad and younger sister. Chris becomes disappointed and goes back to his room to continue his investigation. He has collected different news articles and magazines with proof of Santa Claus being fake. Suddenly, the parents arrive to check on Chris because he always stays awake on Christmas. The clever boy immediately gets in bed and pretends to be asleep, but after his parents leave, Chris continues waiting for Santa. However, he soon falls asleep without realizing. His eyes open at 11 p.m., but something weird happens. Everything starts to shake and loud noises are coming through the window. Chris immediately puts on his robe and runs outside the house. He can't believe his eyes because a whole train is passing through the neighborhood. As it stops and the smoke subsides, Chris reads the name written in bold letters, the Polar Express. Suddenly, the conductor steps out with a lantern and asks Chris to get on board. This train is heading to the North Pole where Chris always wanted to go. The conductor checks the records, which reveals that Chris has stopped trying letters to Santa. That's why he is chosen for a special journey. Chris still can't interpret the situation and stays quiet, so the conductor assumes that the boy doesn't want to go. He gets on the train and starts moving forward. Chris suddenly realizes that he will not get this opportunity ever again, so he runs to catch the train. The conductor gets happy to see him and invites him inside the cabin. There are several other kids like him, and they are all wearing their night suits. It seems that none of them expected the Polar Express and got on board as cluelessly as Chris did. After taking his seat, Chris notices a friendly girl named Holly and asks her about the train. The girl doesn't know much either, besides that it's a magic train that's going to the North Pole. After a while, the conductor arrives to check everyone's ticket, but Chris clearly doesn't have any. The conductor keeps staring at him and asks him to check the pockets. Miraculously, there's a golden ticket in Chris's pocket. He gives it to the conductor, who punches a B and E on it while another kid gets a L and E, but no one knows what these letters mean. After a while, the train stops again at a small house to pick up another kid named Billy. He seems really scared and refuses to get on board, so the train continues to move forward. Chris peeks through the window to wave at Billy, but he notices that Billy is running towards the train. Chris can't find the conductor, so he asks other kids for help in stopping the train. One of them mentions the emergency brake, and Chris pulls it without a second thought. Billy takes this chance to get on the train, but he sits in a different cabin. Finally, the conductor arrives, but he's really angry and scolds Chris for disturbing their tight schedule. Luckily, Holly steps forward and explains that Chris was just trying to help Billy. The conductor calms down and asks everyone to get back on their seats. It's a cold night and a long journey, so everyone deserves a little refreshment. Saying this, the conductor invites the waiters and chefs to serve their special hot chocolate. They are really professional and complete the task in just a few minutes. Holly secretly hides a cup of hot chocolate under her chair so she can deliver it to Billy. The conductor catches her doing that, but he understands Holly's pure intentions and offers to help. After they leave, Chris notices that Holly forgot her ticket, and it's also not punched yet. To save her from trouble, Chris decides to deliver the ticket, but it accidentally flies away and gets stuck on the window. Chris rushes to get it back, but the wind takes it away towards the forest. Even after traveling through different places, miraculously, the ticket doesn't get damaged and returns to the train. No one has noticed it yet, so the conductor asks Holly to show her ticket. Chris accepts his mistake and volunteers to give his own ticket to Holly, but the conductor clearly states that the tickets are not transferable. He takes Holly to the other cabin, but the kids believe that she will be thrown out of the train. Chris rushes to stop the train again, but then he notices the lost ticket. He changes his plans and goes after the conductor, but only finds Billy. Suddenly, Chris notices a shadow and assumes that the conductor has taken Holly to the roof. He risks his life and climbs on the roof, but can't find Holly. Chris keeps proceeding towards the light and finds a mysterious man camping on the roof. He claims to be the king of this train and the whole North Pole. He also advises Chris to be careful with the ticket and hide it in the shoes. Chris suddenly mentions Santa, but the man says that it's all about believing, just like Chris doesn't believe in ghosts. Even this magical train and this weird journey seems unreal if a person doesn't believe enough. Hearing this, Chris starts assuming that it's all just a dream and he will wake soon. When that doesn't happen, Chris continues to follow the man so they can find Holly. Out of nowhere, the man brings some ski poles and moves smoothly on the roof. The train is getting on a hill, so the man asks Chris to hold on tight. As soon as they reach the engine room, the man asks Chris to jump in the coal storage. Chris gets to the control room and finds Holly sitting there peacefully. The conductor only brought her to look after the engine while the engineers checked the light. Suddenly, the engineers notice a hurdle and tell Holly to pull the brakes. She starts to panic and covers her eyes, but luckily Chris is there to apply brakes on time. The conductor gets angry for stopping the train, but the engineers explain that it's an emergency. The track is covered by thousands of caribou, and it will take hours to clear the way. Christmas can't happen without the Polar Express reaching on time, so the conductor starts fighting with the engineers. He accidentally pulls an engineer's beard, which scares the caribou. The conductor gets an idea and keeps pulling the beard until all the caribou run away in fear. Now the path is cleared, the train starts moving again. They are heading towards a bumpy track, so the conductor asks the engineers to slow down the speed. While trying to do that, the lever gets stuck, and the cotter pin falls down in the air vent. The train starts accelerating uncontrollably while heading towards the steepest known tracks. The kids and the conductor keep screaming while the engineers are trying to get back the cotter pin. They eventually get on the frozen lake, but the train is still out of control. The kids almost fall off, but the mysterious man saves them. Before Chris can say anything, the man disappears in thin air, proving that he is actually a ghost. One of the engineers finally gets an idea and uses his hairpin to fix the lever and stop the train. When everything seems back in place, Chris notices that the ice is breaking. The conductor asks the engineers to turn on the engine and try getting off the lake. He also stands up on the roof to guide the train in the best way possible. One wrong move and everyone will drown in the freezing cold lake. But fortunately, everything goes fine, and they continue their journey towards the North Pole. Holly also gets back her ticket, and the conductor punches a few letters on it. He suddenly remembers a story and shares it with the kids. It was the conductor's first ride when he almost fell off the roof, but an unknown person saved him. The conductor didn't see the person, but he realized that sometimes the most real things in this world are the ones we can't see. This reminds Chris of the ghost that saved him, and he might be the one who saved the conductor. To reach the cabin, the kids pass through a place full of old toys. They are abandoned by their owners, so the train picks them up for recycling. Before leaving this sad place, Chris notices a few puppets controlled by the ghost. They all make fun of Chris behaving like the old man who hated Christmas. Despite being a kid, Chris stopped believing already. Poor Chris gets uncomfortable and runs to the other cabin. The other kids want to know how Holly is saved, but she is more interested in talking to Billy. The poor boy is standing alone in a corner and singing a depressing song about Christmas. The lyrics reflect Billy's feelings. Life has been really hard on him, and he has stopped making new friends. Holly feels sorry for him and continues the song with new lyrics. She calls Christmas a beautiful day that brings everyone together. Chris reaches there too and notices the breathtaking view of northern lights. The North Pole is just a couple of miles away. Just in a few minutes, the Polar Express enters the North Pole, which is surprisingly a beautiful city full of lights. Hundreds of elves surround the train and guide it towards the center of the city where Santa will appear. One of the kids will get the chance to receive the first Christmas gift from Santa. Hearing this, the kids get really excited and wish to be the lucky one. Once the train stops, the kids start lining up, but Billy stays in his cabin. Holly asks the conductor, but he only says that it's not necessary for everyone to see Santa. Holly still wants Billy to join him, and Chris follows him too. Billy seems really depressed and says that Christmas never worked for him. He prefers being alone. Holly doesn't agree because she thinks everyone should try making new friends. Before Billy can respond, the cabin starts to shake and separates from the train. It falls away uncontrollably and ends up in the middle of a mysterious station. The sleigh bells are ringing in one of the tunnels, but Chris can't hear them. He still believes Holly and starts following her. After passing the dangerous narrow path, the kids reach a small alley that ends up at a small tunnel. Chris still can't hear the bells and does everything that Holly says. After passing the tunnel, the kids reach the elf workstation. This is where the elves choose the presents for each kid. They also have magical cameras that allow them to keep an eye on every kid. If someone doesn't behave nicely, his Christmas gift is canceled. After choosing all the gifts, the elves call it a wrap-up and get ready for the next stage. They get in a bullet car that travels at the speed of light to save time. Chris and his friends also get in one of the cars to find an exit, but the car only takes them to another giant room. Here, all the gifts are wrapped and sent out for delivery. Billy notices a gift with his name and address and grabs it immediately because he never got a Christmas gift before. Holly and Chris follow him too and slip down through a long slide that ends up in a giant funnel. The kids eventually fall on a huge pile of gifts prepared for the kids all around the world. Billy is still glued to his present, which is sent by a person named Mr. C. He wants to open it right now, but the label says, "Do not open until Christmas." Suddenly the pile starts moving and stops under a hole. A red bag wraps around the gifts and a flying ship carries it to the sky. It flies above the whole city and heads towards a magnificent Christmas tree. Billy also wants to see the tree, but something is pulling his legs. It turns out to be another kid from the train who wanted to check his present. After a while, the flying ship stops at the tree and slowly moves down. It accidentally hits the star decoration, but the elves catch it in time. They are really skilled in their work. After reaching the ground, the elves help the kids in jumping down from the gift bag. What they did was against the rules, but the elves forgive the kids because it's Christmas. They also take away Billy's gift and promise to deliver it soon. Chris and his friends join the rest of the kids and witness the preparation of the sleigh. First of all, the elves bring the flying reindeers and line them up with the sleigh. Afterward, they bring the iconic sleigh bells. The beautiful sound spreads in the atmosphere, but unfortunately Chris can't hear them. He tries his best to focus, but nothing helps. After a while, Santa arrives and steals the show. Everyone is cheering for him, but Chris still can't see Santa or hear the bells. He gets really upset and almost cries, but then a sleigh bell rolls down near his feet. Chris picks it up, but it seems to have no sound. This is happening because he stopped believing in the Christmas spirit. The boy finally understands his mistake and firmly says, "I believe." He finally starts hearing the beautiful sound of the bells and gets mesmerized. He doesn't even realize that Santa is standing right behind him. After taking the bell, Santa greets each kid one by one and gives them a valuable piece of advice. He calls Holly a brave, confident lady who is gifted with leadership qualities, while Billy should open up about his feelings and make new friends. Santa also chooses the lucky kid for the first Christmas gift, and it's no other than Chris. He is taken to the flying sleigh and gets the first present. Chris chooses the fallen sleigh bell. Santa calls it a symbol of true Christmas spirit and asks Chris to keep it in a safe place. As soon as the clock hits midnight, the sleigh starts flying. After lighting up the Christmas tree, Santa fills the sky with fireworks and disappears in thin air. Now it's time for kids to return home. The elves continue celebrating while the kids line up for the Polar Express. The conductor punches the tickets again and completes the message. Each kid gets a different one. Billy is asked to rely and trust on others, while Holly is advised to keep leading others like she does. Chris also gets the message, and it's the thing he learned tonight, believing. After getting on the train, all the kids want to see the sleigh bell, but unfortunately, it's gone. Chris's pocket had a hole and the bell fell down somewhere. He gets really sad because nothing can ever replace such a valuable gift. The train starts moving and the first stop is Billy's house. After getting off the train, Billy rushes to check the Christmas gift, and surprisingly, it's already delivered. Chris gets really happy for his friend and wishes the same for himself. On the next stop, Chris says goodbye to his friends and thanks the conductor for giving him this chance. In response, the conductor only says that it doesn't matter where the train is going. What matters is deciding to get on. Chris agrees and goes inside the house. He checks the living room, but it seems like Santa has not visited him. Maybe this all was just a beautiful dream. Chris takes a deep breath and goes to sleep, but the next morning brings a surprise. His little sister wakes up and informs him about Santa's visit. There's a small gift for Chris, and of course it's the sleigh bell. Santa also sent a note saying that he found the bell on the sleigh and wants Chris to fix the hole in his pocket. Chris starts smiling from ear to ear because the magical night happened for real. He shows the bell to his parents, but they can't hear it ringing as most of the adults stopped believing in Santa. However, Chris will never stop hearing the sleigh bells because he will never stop believing. Some things are too magical to be seen, but for those who believe, the miracles definitely happen.